So today in this historical column, we're looking at a very interesting period of time in northern New Brunswick, especially the Jacquet River area, when pinball hit a new level of appreciation. Now, for many people who were born in the 50s and 60s, you probably remember the old pinball machines that were okay to play, but you didn't really look at the current designs that were popular. For example, in the 1960s, you would rarely see a pinball machine based on a TV show or based on a record band, But as soon as the early 70s happened, and we saw that in the Jacquet River, Lorne, Baldoon area of northern New Brunswick, a lot of the independent canteens were starting to bring in the more modern pinball machines that are still valued now. Could be Playboy, Elton John, certain TV or movie characters. Evel Knievel was popular, Kiss, Playboy, different stuff like that. Now, what was kind of ironic, we didn't even know this change in pinball machine legend was even happening. Pinball machines evolved very quickly from probably the early 60s, or what they call the pre-Beatles era, to the early 70s. You went from basically, basic flippers and basic bumpers to very elaborate designs. Now, by the mid-70s, including with the Evel Knievel and the Kiss pinball machines, you saw electronic or digital faces with more dramatic artwork at the bottom and the top. Now, what was kind of ironic, this also started the trend from the old 10-cent pinball machine to the 25-cent pinball machine. Initially, when you played pinball in the 1960s, it was 5 or 10 cents for 5 balls. By the time the late 70s really hit, you're looking at 5 balls for a quarter, or even some only allowed 3 balls for a quarter. But you were paying for quality. Now, Gottlieb and Bally and the rest of the companies really brought forth a change in the pinball genre. Now, but in Jacquet River, New Brunswick, we had some of the best pinball machines that from the 1960s and were created in the 1970s. Sherman's Canteen in Jacquet River was a small canteen near the Lucky Dollar in Nash Creek. There's locations up in Benjamin, Charlotte, even at hockey rinks where pinball machines were brought in for teen dances, which is kind of unique. I don't know if a lot of people remember that, but people used to have teen dances in rinks back in the day, and all kind of attractions were brought in for the event, including pinball machines, because they made a lot of money. So if you look back at that era very fondly, like I do, especially Jacquet River, my favorite place, of course, was Sherman's Canteen in Jacquet River, because it was literally 5 inches away from the highway. In the summertime, when the door was open, the traveling transports passing by sometimes would make you tilt, and sometimes the wind and the dust coming in would literally put you off your game. But if you did really well as pinball machines, you would obviously you would hear the tuk of the free game, either by matching numbers or, in the case of the digital display, hitting that sequential jackpot. Again, if you have a chance, there's different pinball appreciation sites on Facebook and on YouTube. Please check them out. But for me, my favorite pinball machine back then was obviously the Tommy pinball machine, or Pinball Wizard. But I became fascinated, which would be good for future podcasts, with the later versions of the digital kind, including the infamous Twilight Zone pinball machine, which allegedly to this day is the longest development pinball machine of all time. I guess over 10,000 hours of development went into the machine to really showcase for the player what the game and the show was all about. Again, on this December afternoon, we wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and as we like to say in the pinball machine, keep your quarters on top, because you always got to have some extra change to play if you don't win a free game. But you see, I always won free games, so I played almost all afternoon sometimes. Anyway, hope this finds you well. Bye.